Hello. Welcome to the second recording of the CritCast for 2020. And so far, we're keeping on with the once weekly schedule so far, so that's great. This week, it's me again, Ross, with Jill and Trent. So this week, we're trying off something new. I always want to learn new things, or at least see people's passion and care and what they love about something. Even if I like it, and especially if I'm not so much into it or know a whole lot about it. So this week, we're going to have Jill explain something that she's super interested in, which is like spooky, scary skeletons and ghosts that live in your walls and toilet, or something like that. Is that how it goes?
Something like that. I mean, honestly, there is a thing about a toilet ghost.
Oh, I was making that up, right?
Oh, okay, all right.
I thought we called those crocodiles or
No!
alligators. Which one was it again?
Yeah.
No. Oh God.
But this week is going to be about the paranormal, and I've always kind of been like a fan of like paranormal, like ghosts and UFOs. I was more into it when I was younger, but Jill is, I guess, more into it now than I am currently. And I'd like to hear her take on it and what she knows. And I don't know, can you give us lessons on how to yell at ghosts in the dark for like the Travel Channel or something?
I mean, for starters, you kind of don't want to do that. Don't pay attention to a lot of that shit you see on TV. I mean, I guess I always been into it. Because like where I came from, I'm in Hawaii, and well, I was in Hawaii, obviously, but there's just a lot of like mixed culture. And a lot of people that they do respect the whole like spiritual kind of aspects in life and whatnot. And I actually did have my own experiences when I was living with my mom in it was like a recent cottage kind of like extension of our house, and it was very interesting. I was a little freaked out, but now I look back now.
Actual like ghost encounter? I've never had something like that.
I mean, it's not like you necessarily like see it like you do in the theaters and in the movies, TV, and all that. It was kind of an interesting experience because it was like it always felt like somebody was watching you. It always felt like like something standing there, and you deep down inside, obviously there's nothing there as you're looking at it, but there was always this strange point where it was just this part of the house, because it was basically our house is like a huge like hallway. That's all it was. So in order for me to get past like into the living room, I'd have to pass the first bathroom of the house. And for whatever reason, as I was always walking by there, it always felt like someone was standing there in a doorway and was watching me. And it was a little unnerving. So it always like made people like walk really fast past the bathroom. And I told my mom about it, and she's just like, you scaring yourself. You watch too many of those movies. It's not, you're just imagining things. And she actually had her own strange kind of experiences as well. At the end of the house is where her room is at. And for whatever reason, so like her bed was facing like towards the door. Whatever reason is, she would sleep on the side where it favors more towards the door. And she would have a dream every single night about someone that was standing there watching her sleep. And there was even a point in time she told me like about like 2-3 in the morning or whatever, her bed started shaking, and she immediately jumped off, and she's just feeling the bed like, what the hell? Oh, yeah. She's like, what the hell? Can you stop? Like, whatever this is. And then it was weird because then she would sleep on another side, the other side of the bed, and she was fine. So she ended up staying, like, obviously sleeping like that for the time that we were there. And I would also have experiences of somebody sitting at my bedside at night. It was like maybe like 1 a.m, 12 o'clock or whatnot. And it even came to the point where it almost felt physical. Maybe it was just me because I was half asleep or startled, but it was like someone would be touching my face at night.
Yeah, so like those things have always like creeped me out and been really interesting. But as I grew older, I used to do all sorts of ghost stuff when I was younger. But as I got older, I was sort of like, I started to look at it with more skeptical eye. And then I started asking like, okay, how can you prove it, or how can you gather evidence, or whatever? Is that something that you'd cover too?
Yeah, and that's how the way that I see about all these people that like are completely into ghost hunting or whatnot. My perspective, like, let's say if I actually did like go just 110% into this nonsense, the way that I see it, it's like I'm just trying to help whoever this is. Like, let's say a client, for example, if they're just, if their imagination is running, or if something really is going on, because I would want to feel like maybe having some kind of validation, if that makes sense. Like if this thing can be easily debunked, that's awesome, but if it can't, let's see what's going on, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Hey Trent, you ever had like a ghost encounter or something like that?
Well, the previous theater that I used to work at, we had a ghost story for it of a student in the early, I think it would have been 1970s, that hit his head off of a beam, bled out, got to the stage, and collapsed and died there from, like I said earlier, bleeding out. And there was a spot on the stage where you could step on it and it would creak, and it was softer than the rest of the stage.
Ooh,
That's
okay,
interesting.
that's a pretty good ghost story.
And I would usually say the story with more gusto, but since the school's been recently closed, I don't really have time to tell the story anymore in its
Yeah.
proper fashion.
Hmm.
Oh,
And
that sucks.
some students would actually say that they would see like a blue light moving in the cove system over top of the audience, or there would be somebody standing on the railing of backstage left area where all of the pulleys are for the fly system, and that there would be just somebody standing there leaning on the railing looking down at them,
Oh
not
dang.
doing or saying anything, just standing there, and then they would blink and they'd be gone.
That would get
That's
me.
pretty badass.
So, like, Jill, in your experience or research, do you like stories like that usually have some basis? I don't know about like in truth, but rather, do you think it plays into ghostly experiences when you got like a backstory like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like let's say, with Trent's example, with people, stories, sometimes I feel like they kind of influence like people's perspectives. Actually, a good example is the Winchester Mansion. I'm pretty sure the both of you have heard about that, right?
Yeah, that's that mansion built by the Winchester rifle lady. She went all crazy and built a billion rooms.
Right. And the whole backstory about it is, she was married into the Winchester family. And of course, obviously, they were like the big family that produced all the Winchester rifles that was used like pretty much for war, obviously. They used it towards, killing off Indians on the land. And for whatever reason, like the family started to suffer some of these bizarre deaths, and like they're just like adults, even children, that weren't making it past a certain age. It was crazy. And she was very superstitious herself, and she went to like like a psychic, and the psychic said, well, there's all these really angry people that were killed by your Winchester rifle. If you go down to this farmhouse and you start building up a mansion, you can keep building it so that way the spirits don't really get to you. So that's pretty much how she ended up moving to California. She bought this farmland, and she just went completely nuts with it. And it's pretty awesome because like if you actually pull it up and see it, like people can still obviously visit today. There's doors that lead to nowhere, stairways that lead up into the ceiling. There's like about 47 fireplaces, like about 170 rooms. It's nuts. And I think that's what kind of like draws people in, and they're like, oh, well, maybe she's still around. Maybe she's still haunted, just because of the whole story altogether.
That's always interesting, but then like, how does someone go about proving, or maybe not even proving, recording, gathering evidence of like spirits or ghosts in that kind of place? Because I've watched tons of shows and seen things. I've seen shows that go to the Winchester Mansion, and they have like similar techniques, usually some kind of recording device and yelling at the ceiling, like I joked at the very beginning. Is like,
Right.
how does, at least in your opinion, like how does one go about doing this in a way that I guess is scientifically sound or without looking like a crazy person?
Right, because I mean, let's be real here. The whole the whole thing about paranormal research, like, it's a pseudoscience. It's not an actual thing. I feel like technology lately has been, like, obviously getting better throughout the years. So there's actually more opportunities for, people to actually capture something that we might have missed like a long time ago. Like you were saying before, some people actually, very, very popular thing, doing recordings, and they're called EVPs, which is actually an electronical voice phenomenon. So, for example, if you're saying like, "Oh, who's here?" and you give that moment of silence, and then you play back that recording, you just might be able to catch something that you can't hear, but the recorder picks up. There's other ways too. You have things like a video recording. Obviously, a lot of people used to use Polaroid cameras back in the day because those things are almost impossible to actually mess with unless you mess with the film itself. And Polaroid cameras, they develop the instant that you actually take a picture. So if you go ahead and you take your picture, who knows, you might capture something, you might not.
I never actually thought about that when like thinking about tools that you would use to try and catch ghosts or catch evidence of ghosts. Is like, obviously we got digital cameras and stuff. We got one in everyone's phone, but like that also means there's a proliferation of like Photoshop. People can manipulate shit, but like, okay, it makes sense that if you just have a Polaroid, like, what the fuck are you gonna do with that?
Yeah, exactly. And like, unless you actually do something to the film itself, which I don't know what you would do, but there's that. And there's also like another technique recently that popped up, and it's called a spirit box. And I don't know about it, but basically,
is that thing that makes like a bunch of static noise and it's annoying?
Yeah. So what it does is that this it's basically a radio, and what it does is that you just make it flip through all the frequencies on the radio stations, and whatever is trying to allegedly communicate with you, what it does is that it takes bits and pieces of that audio and it comes through. So like if you're trying to get something to say something through the spirit box, you might hear like something like Apple Tater, from BuzzFeed or something.
the cool voice. Yeah, like Trent, have you seen this? It's like the spirit box, they bring it out and it just makes a like
oh yeah,
noise.
Yeah, I've seen that
And
before, and it really
like
freaks me out sometimes.
But yeah, it's like I the logic behind that thing seems like, okay, it kind of makes sense, but also like it's something about me and kind of knowing how the human brain works is, but like we're really good at fooling ourselves into thinking we hear something, which is always like my first defense against any kind of evidence that goes like, oh, you just thought you saw that, or you're attributing something to that might actually be there.
Right,
Like,
and
that makes sense.
That's 100% fine to think that way. Like the way that I look at this is like, okay, let's say if I do get something right, and it's like I want to look into it. I don't want to just automatically jump to it and say like, oh, this is the ghost of like Jerry Bob so and so. I just want to look into it. I want to see like if maybe the evidence is valid. Like actually research it before going, oh well, this is haunted. So fun fact about one of the more earlier ways to actually record ghosts, like AVP, like I said, the technique was first discovered by a Swedish artist named Fredrik Jurgensen. It's like about 1959. He was actually originally recording bird songs with a tape recorder, and when they played it back, they got a little more than what they were asking for.
Shit, I would have hated to be that first person who got an EVP.
Yeah,
like it's like, oh, birds. And you're just like, oh shit, those birds are talking to me.
Yeah, all of a sudden, birds and something screaming in the background.
Oh god.
But just to give a little rundown about like the whole, like how this whole thing nonsense got started, because I'm pretty sure you're curious about it, right?
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about what you've researched about the ghosts and spirits.
The ghosts.
I can't help but say it like that. Where's the ghost?
Okay, so for starters, let me ask you something. I know, like, you're kind of, you look into things before you actually, decide on whether you believe it or not. Just real honest opinion. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Do you guys believe in ghosts?
Trent, you want to answer first?
Oh, you're the host. I'm going to let you do it first.
Oh, dang. Like, I got a wishy-washy, like a gut feeling. Sometimes I just feels like they're real. Like, if I'm just, like, in a dark area, in a place that just feels haunted, I think that exudes its presence. It's like, in my gut, it's like, oh, shit, it's real. But in my head, I'm like, it can't be real. There's not enough evidence, and the mechanics of it just don't work. So I'm always in, like, a very confused state, and that just drives up anxiety about it, and that just makes the whole thing worse, so I guess I do.
That's...
I'm scared by by the lack of evidence regarding ghosts and the non-absolution of it.
So
Ghosts
it's like
need a
the
nerve for you to be able
possibility
to
of
see
it.
them.
So it's like the possibility of it being real that just makes it a little.
Yeah, and I can't
Yeah.
fight that feeling, no matter how
Right.
much like my rational mind gives me answers for it.
Oh, do you also need like a rundown of how the mechanics of ghosts work from top to bottom? Like how
I
much
need
damage
some
they
gameplay.
do? I need to see some gameplay.
Yeah, I need to see a detailed like breakdown of a ghost and its frame data. I need to know what its active
Levels,
frames
yeah,
are
come
so I can
on.
Jesus
counter it.
Christ.
What about you, Trent?
And I believe ghosts exist, but I just think a lot of the times the people on like shows and stuff like that are great. I wouldn't say greatly exaggerating, but at least the people on the show are. But sometimes I think they might be exaggerating when they run out and do, "Oh my God, this is haunted."
Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of
That's
where we
fair.
stand on ghosts.
All right. So, pretty interesting enough, according to Poland, around October of 2019, so it's fairly fresh. It was made by this one website called YouGov, and I guess they just got curious about it. But about a whopping 45% of Americans believe that ghosts and demons actually exist. It's pretty funny because for whatever reason, they included vampires, and actually, there's like about 20 people that believe in it.
Wait,
Does the like survey make a distinction between ghosts, demons, and vampires, or are they all just lumped
No.
together?
They actually made a distinction, so thank goodness.
okay, so
45% of people believe in devils and ghosts.
Right. So, like, it was just that possibility, or like, heck yeah, they actually do exist. And interesting
dang.
enough, following by that, obviously, if people think that ghosts are real, then obviously there's also haunted houses. So, another survey that was conducted by Realtor.com suggests that about good 30% of people were open to living in a haunted house, and then the other 42% said hell no.
wait, this is like a realtor. Oh, okay, that's kind of funny.
Right.
I guess I can kind of trust it. Like, okay, it's like, oh, this has got 3 bedrooms and a couple of ghosts. If that if that breaks the deal
So,
for you. But
now
I couldn't.
the better question would be is if the people who were renting the house is like, okay, where are the ghosts? Like, would they be tied to like specific rooms? So it's like you're sitting down and you're like, oh, hey Joe, I'll don't worry, I'll be leaving in a few. I'm just sitting here for my coffee, and the ghost says, yeah, okay, man, we good.
Can we charge these ghosts rent?
You take your
They're
time,
ghost bucks.
You take your time. I'm just gonna sit here and have some little ectoplasmic gin, if you know what I'm saying. I don't even know what Jersey people
Jesus
drink.
Christ. But if you think about it, right, like I feel like this is almost kind of like a valid question, just because the whole circumstances of a house really could affect the actual like value of the property, period. Like if you have this one house that's like, oh, well, it's a 3-bedroom, it's a 2-bath, they have a basement, have a backyard. 3 people were murdered here. That actually would like sometimes actually people care about that kind of stuff. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to sleep in the place that, 3 people got murdered in. That's nuts.
Mm-hmm. And the murder is bad enough, but like the ghost is just like a multiplier on that.
Oh,
Now,
right.
like a little like follow up question to that about the house, but here's a question more for the both of you. Would you both work in a place if you know that there was a murder there?
I'd say yeah.
I could probably
yeah.
work. I could work in a place where there was a murder. I don't know if I could work in a place that was haunted
Oh yeah,
by either the murdered or the murderer,
that's fair.
or maybe some evil spirit summoned by the residual hatred left by the whatever.
All right. So the whole reason paranormal research actually even became a thing, it actually began during the Age of Enlightenment, which it's approximately about 1620 to 1781, and that's when the period of science and religion, they actually began to separate at that point. Now there is this one researcher, his name is Swedenborg. I don't remember, he's like somewhere from Europe, but this guy actually came along and he claimed that he was able to perceive the spiritual realm. So I'm assuming like, he was basically claiming that he could see dead people. He actually published his claims of visions in his novel. It was a book called The Secrets of Heaven in around 1745. And
Damn.
there was a journalist, Edmund Dawson Rogers. He actually was really into these writings, so he followed this Swedenborg's writings along with another person, Sir Isaac Pitman, around mid-1800s. Now, Rogers actually joined another person, the physicist by Sir William Barrett, and all of them together pretty much formed the Society for Psychical Research, or in short, the SPR, in around 1881.
Oh dang! I kind of figured like ghosts and spirits and demons, those have existed in like human culture, folklore since forever.
It really
right?
has, yes.
But I didn't think that the like defined profession of ghost hunting actually went back that far.
Yeah, it went back that far.
I thought it was just part of people's lives.
Like a lot of people actually they got really into it. They would actually perform things like seances, and all of a sudden there's just this big boom about the occult. There's just mediums left and right that just popped out of nowhere and said, hey, I can talk to dead people for you. And and it was very interesting because one of the there were some actual known people that really were into this stuff. Like, for example, the wife of Abraham Lincoln. She was really into the whole paranormal deal, and she actually went to a medium to see if she could, talk to her dead husband after what.
Oh, after he lost his fight with George Washington for the presidentship. That's how American history works, right?
Oh, right. Well, I thought he was, he won second best against a gun.
Jesus, like that's worse than my joke. God.
But
you're not wrong. I can't fault you for that, but you're not wrong.
Oh, wow.
So there was also another figure that you guys actually might be familiar with, Harry Houdini, the magician, right? So he also went to seances too, and it was shortly after his mother's death. It was like about 6 months later, and he actually went to one of the quote unquote like known mediums, and he sat in. He was like, hey, I would like to talk to my dead mother, and of course, the medium's like, oh, sure, so of course they hold the seance, and normally it was like this big round table, everyone's holding hands, they got the candlelight, and when it's dark. Now, unfortunately, which also alludes to people not thinking this stuff is real, is there were a lot of scams.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, is like, with the proliferation of this kind of stuff, there's got to be people who just
of course they went in for money, and you know what? So many people make it big.
Aren't those people who do that? Them psychic
seances.
No, I know there's some people who have TV shows that are like
mediums, psychics.
Mediums. You're right. So he's sitting there with the medium, and as everything is going on, Houdini realizes that he knows every single trick that they're pulling in the seance. So being that pissed off and salty about it, which honestly I can't blame him, he also made it a kind of like a little side mission for himself to go to every single one of these seances when he wasn't doing magic tricks, and he actually just outright debunked them in the middle of the seance. It was pretty great. Like, that was cool. A whole level of petty that I
what an absolute legend.
Yeah, he was a unit.
Yeah, I could understand that. Like, I'd also be pissed off because I guess when I watch like any like medium or psychic on TV, I kind of put them into two like buckets. One is like a well-meaning like yoga instructor who may or may not be able to do what they say, but their heart's in the right place. They're trying to help. But then there's the carnival charlatans,
right?
And like I don't think either one is very good, but one is better than the other. And I guess if you want to stomp out one, you get rid of the scam artist first.
Right. And there was like other people that actually, made it big off of their money during the whole occult boom around 1861. Another person actually kind of took advantage of this as well. And this photographer, his name was William Mumler, and he actually presented the first piece of photographic evidence of the supernatural. And it was pretty cool. You can actually find this today. It was of basically this man, he's sitting in a chair, and allegedly someone has their arm like on their shoulder, and it looks all like specter and like see-through. And when that happened, of course, like other photographers came around and said, hey, you know what? I can do this stuff too. I can photograph dead people. And which was pretty interesting because although like the way that these cameras actually work, it's like you have to let the photograph sit, if that makes sense, because it has to have time to develop. This is old.
This is the old-timey photos where you gotta sit there for like an hour.
Yeah,
or something.
It's a little hard to explain, but basically, like they take the image and then the plate itself has to burn that image onto the photo. So while that's cool,
that's usually what in this day and age you would call shutter speed, which you can change to,
right?
Because it needs the light to make the image. So it's taking the time to have the light bounce from it back and keep doing that until it gets the full picture.
Right. But what you could easily do to manipulate these photographs is that you take another used plate that you already have and you stack it on top of the plate that you're using for the current person. And it creates a technique that's called double exposure. So a lot of those ones back in the day, unfortunately,
another wave of scammies.
Another wave of scammies.
Man, so it kind of sounds like the history of ghost hunting is like somebody thinks they got it, and then a whole bunch of charlatans which kind of call into question the whole deal.
Yep. So it's kind of like, hey, this is really cool thing that's actually coming around. And it may or may not be a possibility, but, you got these other people who are taking advantage of the opportunity going, that really spoil the pot.
Yeah, dang. So, like, how far has ghost hunting come since then?
Well, for people who are watching TV, obviously you see just abundance of, TV shows like Ghost Adventures. You have the, Cold Case Files. You have, Ghost Hunters, period. Yeah.
Dude, there's like a billion ghost
There
hunting shows.
is
Like, there's like, I don't know if these are real, but there's like ghost train inspectors or fucking something. Like, there's a ghost hunting show for anything and every kind of situation,
right,
and location.
And, looking at those, like a lot of times I'm like, yeah, this is definitely entertainment. Like it's fun for me to watch, but do I believe in what you can't tell me that you capture every single little thing throughout the entire time that you're there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just, it doesn't really click with me.
Yeah, I get that.
A lot of those stuff I just watch for fun, like BuzzFeed and all that. It's fun. I guess I'm more like interested in the things that people just happen to catch, because that's kind of something that that it happens. They pull out their phone, they start recording, like what the heck is going on. Like those kind of videos are a little more believable than obviously what I'm seeing on Travel Channel, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, because it's incidental, can't really be planned,
right?
So have you ever seen anything that like that incidental that like really convinced you, or at least it felt more convincing than, okay, maybe this could be fake? Because obviously we have like things like YouTube and stuff, so people can just upload anything at all times. Have you ever seen anything like that?
Well, sheesh. I mean, I watch a lot of them. Like for example, like CCTV cameras, like the security ones. Those ones, it's like, to me, my opinion, because those are running live. It's not like you can actually just go and manipulate it. So, you see a lot of people, they're working the security jobs or whatnot, and then they're literally filming the monitor, like as the security camera is going. And there was actually one of them where it was taken, I guess it was like a courtyard or something. And you could literally see the outline of somebody or something that was actually walking across. And it looked very fluid, looked very like almost human-like. It was pretty cool. Another one too is Disney. Disneyland, Disney World.
I always forget.
Me too. I really do. Like Disney World, a lot of people, they think, they suspect that Disney World is actually haunted. And it's almost like, well, gee, I don't know, like, some people say that, Walt Disney himself walks the park, or a lot of people actually are a little bit nutty about Disney. And I hear, it's rumor, I don't know if it's fact, but a lot of people, they go to Disney somehow with the ashes of their loved ones, and they go to the house of, the Haunted Mansion?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and they just scattered it. They've scattered it.
Yeah, I heard
there.
that too. It's like, it happened so much that Disney had to fucking like stop people from doing it.
Yeah, like they had to vacuum up all the ashes. Like, can you imagine? Like, you go in there and
Is that like just to appease the spirit of Walt Disney? In order for Disney to like get things, you have to scatter the ashes of the dead in order to keep his spirit appeased.
I know, right? Or else it gets angered.
For the second reckoning of Disney, where he will take over the entire world.
Maybe.
But it's just that's how obsessed a lot of people, were with Disney World. Like, hey, when I die, like, please somehow sneak in and spread myself all over the Haunted Mansion. If you could do me a solid. Yeah,
get vacuumed up by some like underpaid kid.
Some underpaid kid, like, I don't pay enough for this shit. Just vacuuming up like, Susan, who just died like 2 days ago.
God. God damn it, Susan! Why do you do this to us?
Like, I wouldn't want that. Like, if my like relative told me to do, it's like, I don't care if it's your last wish. That it's not going to be respectful. You're going to be vacuumed up by some minimum wage kid working on his summer break. Probably got a fucking pile of it somewhere. Everybody's ashes
shit, Jim. This is the third time today, right?
But man, like when I was younger, again when I was younger, because I don't have like the time or energy to do this anymore. I went on like a ghost tour.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was in like Georgia or South Carolina or something. It was like one of those outdoor ones. They walked through like this old town, And I must have been just the most annoying little shit because I was just like running around. I think I had my like a disposable camera, and I was just taking pictures of just fucking anything and everything, and hoping that like, oh, maybe I'll catch a ghost in this one or this one while this person is trying to do their tour, and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna take pictures of this empty space. I'm like so embarrassed thinking about it,
Oh
but
my
like
God.
that's and I did actually try like an EVP session when I first heard about it, and I don't know why I did it like in my own house.
I don't know why
like,
I was just about to say that. Like, why would you do that in your own house? You know, you gotta live with that
I didn't
shit.
think about it.
Oh my God.
Like one, it was like a newly built house. I saw it built, so it's not like this is an old rickety place, and I don't think it was like on some like ancient Native American burial ground.
No.
Second of all,
You're gonna get the ghost of Craig, the guy who worked there and accidentally impaled himself.
Oh my God.
yeah, again, like, and second of all, if I did find it, what the fuck was I gonna do? I was like,
or
fucking
maybe
12.
or maybe you'll find the spirit of Susan who was spread across the ground at Disney World.
Yeah,
The ashes like wafted
like,
into the wind and got into like your front yard.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what. But the way I did, because I always heard like, okay, so you got a recorder. I had like a little recording device, a cheapo like tape reel to reel thing, and then I just turned on like a fan, like a desk fan, because I always heard like, oh, the ghosts just can't make sounds; they need like white noise to use as their voice. So I would just sit in an empty room with a fan going and record and ask questions. I didn't find anything, considering that I still lived in that house and nothing ever happened. But like, I can't be that into it anymore, because every time I think about ghosts, and I have to think about the mechanics of it, and in my mind, everything has to follow some kind of rule. And every time I watch something about ghosts, it's like every ghost follows a different fucking rule.
The rules don't apply.
And I can't it's like that can't be real. If you guys want me to treat it as a science, there has to be some consistent rules. It's like, oh, it's cold or it's hot, or orb that's an orb, and no, it's not dust, or it's this but not this or that. And it's like, oh God.
Well,
Well,
speaking
in
about
science,
that,
there's not really facts, more as laws and theories. And
Yeah,
even
I
if it's a
guess so.
pseudoscience, it's still following the rules of, the law of ghosts, where people do believe that there are ghosts. People believe it.
Yeah, but for me, like if I want to believe ghosts exist, then there needs to be some consistency in how they operate. And I'd like, what were you about to say, Jill?
well, so like how they operate, gosh, that's like a whole thing. I don't know if this changed recently, but I mean, normally there's like different kinds of hauntings that people, I guess, have to deal with. So one is, of course, like an intellectual haunting, like something that's, like poking or pinching at you, or moving things off or misplacing items or things like that. And then, of course, you got your residual haunting, which is basically like just, I guess, like watching a clip, basically. Like there's no kind of intellectual thing. It's like a stamp of time in the place. I guess like a good example is like Gettysburg, for example, because obviously, in U.S. history, it was like one of the, biggest, bloodiest battles during the Revolutionary War. I don't remember. It was a war.
The Gettysburg was the Civil War.
It was a Civil War. Jesus Christ. But, that kind of area.
I think it was one of the last ones.
Yeah, that kind of area, though, like it has like a significant impact. There are like there is killing, there is emotions, there's high trauma, and a lot of people that actually go there, they hear things like sometimes they hear gunfire, sometimes they hear they hear voices, they hear people screaming, and then
echoes of the past.
It's like so it's like echoes of the past. So you can't really do anything about it. It's just there.
Or is it a hunting gone wrong?
Or a hunting gone wrong, however you want to put it.
I didn't realize there was like different kinds of hauntings, because this is probably another recording, but I was big into UFOs at the same time I was into ghosts, because paranormal, supernatural shit. And I still am into UFOs, but like there's different kinds of UFO encounters, like encounters of the first kind, second kind, and third kind. I didn't know there were different kinds of ghosts, hauntings.
Yeah.
Are there other kinds?
I mean, that's usually how it's kind of categorized, really. And of course, and then you have like those kind of violent type of hauntings, like demons, for example. Demons are classified as something that did not have like a human kind of origin. It's not human whatsoever.
That's a good question. Like, obviously, there you just described the difference between like a ghost and a demon. A ghost or undead has to be the spirit of a human. A demon is inhuman. But like, how do you tell the difference? How do you then distinguish between them? Considering that you're probably not going to get like a visual image of whatever's bothering you.
You probably not. Like, that's actually a really good question. I mean, normally with those kind of demon type of hauntings, it's more violent, it's more physical. I don't know. It's all over the place. Like you've heard those kind of like Hollywood stories, like Amityville, for example, right? You know, they experience like people being scratched or hit or pulled. Like they got their hair pulled. Then you got other hauntings where people have allegedly heard like the three knocks, which is basically the mocking of the Holy Trinity. And anytime you hear that kind of nonsense, it could be it could be a possibility that something inhuman is in your house. A lot of people that actually like experience those kinds of things, I've heard stories of people messing with occult stuff and not really knowing what they're doing. Prime example, Ouija boards. Ouija boards are basically like a communication between you and whatever it is that you're trying to talk to. But to me, that's always something that you don't want to bring upon yourself, because let's say if it does work, right? You have no idea who you're talking to. Like if you were trying to talk to, like a family member or whatnot, anything could say that, yeah, I am Uncle so-and-so.
Look, it could just be some demon who's sitting there shit posting at his computer for a little while.
Posting, yeah, but yeah,
Okay,
no, that's how it is. Like you could be contacting something that you don't want being pulled into your life, and it's almost kind of like a sad thing because of like what this person ends up going through. Because not only do they not know how to close the door to Pandora's box, this thing is attached to them. And a lot of the things I've seen and I've read, like it sucks.
Yeah, I get that idea of like I hate to use like some terminology that I see in like the sillier goods, but like you opened a portal or whatever, a vortex
right.
of evil. But like, I sometimes find that very like hard to stomach, because it's like you can buy a Ouija board at Target.
I know, and that's
like
what blows my mind. Like this 10
like how can this fucking thing sold by like Hasbro have any kind of like spiritual energy?
Look, actually,
I think it's more of like the actual practice of it. Like this little $10 toy, could have the potential of just ruining your day.
Okay, that makes more sense. It's the ritual, not the
itself.
object.
It's not the object. Like it could be you literally just making your own, like the Ouija board like on a sketch pad or something, and then you just decide to be stupid and give it a try. Just doing that alone and talking to something, and then you're like, okay, you don't even close it off, or if you do, the thing doesn't care, and you're stuck with that.
Oh, and now I'm sorry, I'm going off topic again, but now all I can think of is the entire Doom series can be stopped because one guy was using a Ouija board.
Did you say Luigi board? I hate it.
Yes. Sorry, I had to do it. It was too good of a joke to pass up.
Jesus. But so there's others.
Is it spelled body?
So it doesn't only pertain to Ouija boards as well. Like if you have like any form of like you attempting to like contact the dead, like a what is that, a pendulum, for example, that's just another form of communication to get an
pendulum.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Okay, so
how do you use that?
Pendulums are basically
well, I know what a pendulum is.
Right, so you know what a pendulum is. Okay, so
it's a heavy thing on the end of like a string.
Right, and what you use and how the way you do it is you get a mat, you put basic answers like yes or no, I don't know, goodbye, of course, Jesus. And what you do is that you hold this pendulum like above the mat, and you just kind of give it a bit of motion, and you ask whatever it is that you want to ask. And it has to be in the form of like a yes or no question. Like, am I going to have a good day today, for example? And the pendulum, what it does is that if it works, if something's actually there with you, it'll actually move the pendulum towards your answer.
Okay, I've never heard of that type of ghost ritual before. That's a new one.
Yeah. And a lot of people use this to like not necessarily contact the dead, but like some people use it for like like, oh, I want to ask questions about my future, or am I gonna
slumber parties?
yeah, it's
games.
like slumber party games, like, am I gonna get a boyfriend, and it says no and you're just sad.
I like, yeah, that's another question. It's like, why would you ever do these rituals? Because it sounds like you're just adding an extra step to your disappointment.
Yeah.
To getting the answer that you don't
Sadly.
want. So what like, do you see like a future for like the whole practice of trying to capture or study the paranormal, ghost hunting, more colloquially?
I mean, when we think about it, it's been going on since like the 1800s. I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. And with the more that we develop technology, I think it's still going to stick around. Nah, I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
Do you think it'll gain any kind of like legitimacy?
What any kind of legitimacy? I mean, hopefully someday it does. I mean, because there are things that people can't explain, especially like some certain photographs that people are still debating about over the years.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? What do you think the field would need in order to get more legitimacy? What would it need to do?
I think,
in your opinion,
I think honestly, like it should, just continue, just grab the evidence. Go through the the proper people to like debunk and research this. I don't know, because I don't know if it'll ever really be considered an actual true science. I mean, I hear that there is a paranormal school. It's like a college up in Virginia, and I stared at it. Yeah, I saw it.
Okay, of course it's in Virginia. I live there. All places.
Yeah.
What? Is that why I literally there's like someone driving around my town who has like a fucking Ghostbusters car?
That probably is. I actually almost got hired on to play a ghost hunter. It was pretty amusing. The only thing that really kept me from actually going is the fact that I was in Hawaii and these people are in Miami.
Yeah, other side of the country.
Yeah.
In the not even just continental other side of the country, like furthest west possible of the United States and furthest
unfortunately
east, yeah.
I was like, well, yeah, I guess I can't join aboard, huh? They're like, no.
But how'd they get in contact with you? I didn't know
it was through Facebook. It was so long ago, and I don't remember exactly who they were, but I don't remember how I got into contact with them.
Dang.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, we're just a small group out in Maine or whatever, and I was just like, oh cool, I'm all into this stuff, I'm a fucking nerd, and just sitting there talking with them, and they either really did want me to come aboard or they just thought I was a lunatic. I don't know what was going through their head.
Mm-hmm. I understand, like I'm always super skeptical about the paranormal and stuff, even if I can't like fight my gut instincts, but I will also admit that the scientific community like has a problem with accepting new things.
Absolutely.
Like the paranormal community can do all the things they want, but if it's not accepted, then it's just not going to get accepted, which is a problem on the other end of the spectrum.
Right.
And that's like an ethical thing that needs to be hashed out.
Yeah, that's
by people smarter than us. And I gotta say, talking about all these ghosts put me in that damn mood, because I just heard I think I heard my like AC turn off, and now I'm like,
who did that?
I'm just in a single damn room. I can see everything, and it's not like it's dark, but I was like, crap.
Well, hello,
my brain is no.
Yeah,
I remember I was
yeah.
Like to give just another funny story about when I got in this dumb mood is so I was in the Outer Banks for a company retreat deal, and one of the places they rented out was just this giant, like it must have been like a former hotel or something, and I don't know how they secured it, but they only put like fucking 10 people in there when you could have put like 50, maybe 100 people in there. But we were just hanging out one day in like one of the lower levels, and this is where we at like a fucking palatial estate, and it's just like 6 of us in this room. We're kind of just hanging out, and then we start hearing shit, and it's probably just the house settling or the wind or like a car outside, but I just like, shit. I could feel, I was like, oh no, my brain's telling me it's a fucking ghost. And the place is so huge that it's like, oh god, it could be in like a fucking different room. And it's like that's what it is. It's the possibility the chance of a possibility that always just gets me. Because in the absence of hard evidence of yay or nay, my brain goes into overdrive. That's just like my anxiety. And that's when I admitted to my coworkers that I'm a ghost racist.
Oh my god. You
Ghost
said
racist.
You said it.
I don't think I'm sorry. I'm
No,
sorry
you're
if
not.
this isn't politically correct, but
Oh
I don't
my
think
God.
ghosts should be allowed in the same places as the living, okay?
Hashtag ghosts are people too.
No, they're not. They're demonstrably not. They were people, and they were like we all had a good laugh, and I was like, I'm kind of serious. It's like, if I will be ghost racist unless ghosts let the living into their plane of existence and then lets us come back.
Oh my god.
Okay, if they can waltz into the material realm and go back to their fucking ghost realm without like paying taxes or whatever, or just scaring the shit out of everyone, then I'm gonna be a ghost racist.
I can't fault you on that, but
I
at the
can't
same
believe I'm
time,
hearing this.
what? What?
Like that's my deepest, darkest secret. I'm secretly ghost racist.
Jesus. What?
I'm sorry.
God, I'm gonna have to use this from now on.
That's like a clip that's gonna come back. It's like, I'm a ghost racist. I'm gonna run for president. It's like
like episode 10, we just bring it up.
Make the material realm great again, okay?
My God.
I'm gonna build a fucking astral wall. Keep out the damn ghosts.
Oh man.
We'll deport them back to the spirit realm.
You fucking ghost bust them back to the spirit realm, yeah.
Oh shit! We'll start our own department of
ghost.
Like this kind of like CIA, CSIS,
The ghost
just
ice.
for ghosts.
Ice for ghosts, yes. That's what the Ghostbusters are.
Oh,
The new Dark and Green reboot. The Ghostbusters are ice for ghost.
Oh my god.
Okay, I'm putting that in my like idea folder. Ghostbusters are ice, but for ghosts.
Oh my god, this is happening.
I had to end on a big dumb note.
Gee.
But yeah, thanks Jill for like giving us a rundown of the history of like ghost hunting. I never knew any of that.
I'm glad actually. Sorry, I'm still hung up on ice sprinkle. I hate it so much.
Yeah, I look forward to learning about new things, especially if you guys have like a big passion for it. I know that Jill, that's why I asked you to do this, because you care big about this kind of thing, at least more than I do, which is what qualifies.
Right.
So like soon, or maybe even next time, like to stay in this vein, which I totally want to do with a whole bunch of different people. Like Trent, you want to try and fucking explain fate to me?
God, you know how much like research I'm gonna have to redo?
Honestly, same. Like, I'm in the same boat with Trent. I'm like, where do you want to start? Like,
maybe both of you can like tag team and teach me what the fuck that weird like you want to fuck King Arthur anime is.
Look, who don't want to though?
Yeah, but that's
wait, no, which one? Prototype or the?
See, that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Okay.
I remember that picture you
that's
sent
for
me,
a different
Jill.
recording. That's for a different recording. I will definitely look forward to that and be a big dumbass about fate and be more confused by the time you guys finish. But yeah, thanks, Jill, for teaching us the history of ghost hunting.
You're very welcome.
That was pretty cool. And I hope to see you all again. I look forward to when Trent and Jill try and teach me about fate. And maybe I can teach them about something. and I'm sorry. I'm not going to take it back. You mortal snowflakes are going to have to just deal with it, okay?
Oh
just because we have a disagreement about how ghosts should be treated. Oh God, that's going too far. Anyway, this is fun. Wish you all a good night, and I hope to see you all again on the CritCast.
Arrivederci.